So let's bring in foreign policy expert Michael Szanto on this back and forth between Trump and Macron. He joins me via Skype from Miami. Michael, let's first talk about NATO. Macron says the organization is brain dead, but surprisingly, Trump defended NATO in response after previously saying that the organization is obsolete. Has Trump changed his tune on NATO, and why?
That's difficult to say. I mean, he seems more consistently to actually support and defend his friend Putin than support NATO. So I consider that an anomaly. But NATO is very necessary because the Russians have been very aggressive in a very disturbing way in Europe and even in ways that threaten the North American homeland.
But that's a change, is it not, between what President Trump said in the past, calling NATO obsolete, and then, defending it?
No, I actually don't think so much, because he continues to claim falsely that all these NATO allies owe us money, which is actually, in a subtle way, simply not true. NATO is the most powerful military alliance in history, but some of the countries continue to be below the suggested military spending of 2% of gross domestic product of their total economy. But what these countries give us, which are very wealthy countries, who each individually could not, even in their wildest dreams, duplicate the U.S. military, they provide very high-quality, advanced militaries that help complement the U.S. military, which is the most powerful military force in the world. And they're critical frontline forces to deter Russian aggression in the European arena.
Well, you're right. I mean, President Trump has long said that he wants other countries to pay their fair share. Trump and Macron, though, also traded threats on tariffs, with Macron threatening attacks on U.S. digital services like Google, and Trump threatening to tax French wine and other French goods in response. Are Trump and Macron just kind of throwing sand at each other at this point, or is either one of them really serious?
I mean, these trade wars have been getting frighteningly serious, but they're based on bad economics, with Donald Trump claiming that trade deficits mean that we're losing money. And I find this situation very strange. The whole world of free trade and liberalized capital flows is the world of Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, as I've said here a few times. So Donald Trump's positions are really something that you associated more with the far left and somebody waging war against global capitalism. He did actually give a speech, interestingly enough, 2016 during his campaign, saying that there's an international banking conspiracy centered in the United States. But very bizarre stuff for a major, supposedly mainstream American politician, particularly Republican, and now Republican president. But yes, there's a hint, more than a hint, that the EU discriminates against our technology companies. But like legitimate concerns against China, it's getting obscured by just throwing darts at all kinds of windmills, basically, imaginary economic threats and grievances.
Well, you talk about the bad economics, though. I mean, it's really bad on both sides. I mean, the U.S. is the world's largest consumer of wine, with France consistently among the top countries for imported wine, while those digital companies like Google and Apple pay little to no corporate tax in foreign countries. So a tax on either one would be big blows economically.
Well, there is actually more to this on the issue of Facebook and Google. There is a jealousy. This has pre-existed the Trump administration, of jealousy on the part of the Europeans towards American technology companies that are actually unrivaled. And they're not the only ones by any means, but the highest visibility ones today are Google and Facebook. And that's not to say that they're perfect corporate citizens, but there is this bias on the part of Europeans against Americans. And we have to defend our technology companies, though we also have to recognize that Facebook and Google are not perfect. And they have attracted scrutiny by our own lawmakers, both Republican and Democrat. But we have to watch carefully here. The EU is biased a little bit against the United States and American companies. But we're also dealing on the American side something very different than what we saw with George W. Bush and President Obama, which were regular presidents, consistent. There's a lot of stuff that President Trump says that is frankly nonsense. And it's disturbing when there are legitimate issues that we have to push with other countries.
Right, and you know, you look at the back and forth, at least today, between Trump and Macron. Many are wondering, where did the good times go between the two? Michael Szanto, foreign policy expert, thanks for joining me here on Stateside.
Very well.